Welcome to the IREL podcast. Are you sick and tired of real estate gurus pitching their next pre-construction deal only to find out years later they were completely wrong? Worried the next overseas conference you spend thousands to attend will only be used to sell overpriced lots and deserted developments? Join thousands of other international real estate seekers who are looking for their place in paradise without the sales pitch. Straight from your host, Taylor White.
Hey, real estate seeker. Welcome to the Overseas Property Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor White. I am proud to say this episode is brought to your earbuds, courtesy of my friends at Shoeboxed. Shoeboxed is the fastest way to turn a pile of receipts into digital data to save you time, money, and hassle. The best part? You can get started completely free. Head on over to irelpodcast.com/shoe for more details. We hear from one of our most fun insiders yet when I sit down and speak with Damon Mitchell, who is living overseas in Tamarindo, Costa Rica, owns a local pizza joint with his wife Christina, and has a flourishing writing career with a soon-to-be self-published book. Damon goes into further details why they left the U.S., what it's like to be self-employed in Costa Rica, some real-world monthly budgets, and much more. Instead of telling you more, let's join Damon from Tamarindo. What's going on, Damon and Christina? It's Taylor White. I'm excited to have you on the podcast, straight from Tamarindo, Costa Rica. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about you guys?
Well, we are both in our 30s. Of course, as you mentioned, living in Tamarindo, Costa Rica. We are both Midwestern kids. Her from Michigan, me from Minnesota. But we met in Los Angeles a few years back. We were both working in the fitness industry and in management positions. And, she went on to do finance. I stayed in fitness, and we kind of decided to do something crazy. So we packed our bags and moved to Costa Rica about a year and a half ago, and have been living in Tamarindo almost a year.
So you said, forget it, I'm going down to Costa Rica because I want to live Pura Vida, right?
Right. Why the heck would somebody leave their life in the United States and go to Costa Rica? You know, we both did the right thing by what we were taught growing up, which was, find something you like to do and do it, make money at it, and then you'll be happy forever. And so, I was in fitness, so I went after fitness. Christina was an athlete, of course, and we started finding after a few years of doing the thing we loved that there was still this, something wasn't working out, something wasn't it wasn't all that we were promised, and so we just figured, let's just shake it up and do something crazy. Let's just throw it all and see what happens. And so, here we are.
So, Damon, I know that you guys have your hands in a lot of great pots. You're doing some copywriting. You have an upcoming book. You're crazy enough to run a pizza place in Costa Rica. Talk more about what you guys do professionally.
All right. Well, first, when we moved to Tamarindo, we knew we needed to set something up to create income. So, in fact, we actually came to Tamarindo because there were so many business opportunities here. We shopped the available businesses, and we found this pizzeria, which may or may not be a crazy purchase, but that was the best deal we found on the table, bang for buck. So we got into the pizzeria, put it into shape, fix the things that needed to be fixed, and then I've been writing on the side for some time. And finally decided to get serious about it and took this blog that I was working on and started to cram it into a book shape. And so, as you alluded, the book is written right now. It's in the editing process. I'm hoping to publish. I was hoping to publish already. But, as those things go, I'm on the schedule that life has dictated. So when it launches, it should be called something about living in vacation land, which is sort of the theme of this whole journey. And then, like you mentioned, I work as a copywriter for a company down here in Tamarindo, and that's just to help supplement our income so that we don't have to stress things like food and power and whatnot.
Damon, I think food is completely overrated, but I have a question for you regarding your book. I was curious as if you're going to do self-publishing or if you're going to go to a big publisher.
Yeah, I don't have the confidence to go to a big publisher, and I don't know that if confidence would even matter. I don't know that that's the right way to do it where I'm at. So I'm leaning towards self-publishing. I'm leaning on local talent for editing. So I kind of want to just keep the whole thing local and homegrown for the time being. And then when it makes me a bunch of money and I'm a big famous author down the road, I can go to a big publishing house and stomp around and tell them what I want.
So I said crazy enough about a pizza place because I grew up in the pizza biz. And as a matter of fact, I'll say that one of the best pizzas I've ever had is in Volcan in Panama. I can't remember the exact place. And another great pizza that I've had is in Dominican Republic, Los Terrenos, at a small seaside pizza place owned by a father and son who are from France. So talk to me about your pizza place and why it's the absolute best pizza in Tamarindo.
That's a tough bill to fit. The thing about Tamarindo, Costa Rica in general, there's a lot of pizza joints, but Tamarindo specifically is almost known for proliferation of pie. And so when we came to town and we looked at this business, it was, like, okay, well, this market's actually pretty well saturated. We're almost fools to do this. But as we went around town and we tried the available pizzas, we found that what was available really wasn't exactly the sort of pizza that we prefer to eat. So when we found this pizzeria and the style of pizza that was being made, we thought this is a place where we can go in with some minor tweaks. It had only been up and running for a couple of months at that point. And so Christina, having a background in things like pizza and pasta, she grew up in an Italian-American family in Michigan, felt that, due to that, and her brother actually has a pizzeria back in Michigan, we could sort of pool our resources, crank out a really good pizza, and even do it at a rate that's better than what the competition is out there doing. And so really you get a product that we feel is superior, our humble opinion, and at a price that even, locals can afford to eat, it's a challenge. In Tamarindo, there's a lot of food options, but there's not a whole lot of budget food options here, not in town. I met a guy a few months ago who said that he felt our pricing here was like Manhattan, New York, but certainly not with the pizzeria. I think we've got a really affordable, quality piece of pie.
So Damon, talk to me. Before we deep dive into Tamarindo some more, I want to know about some of the other places that you've traveled so then we can compare it back to Tamarindo. So talk more about some of the awesome places that you've been, maybe outside of Costa Rica, that you can share with us.
Sure. Reaching way back. I've been through a couple places in Europe, Paris, a lot of Italy, south of France. I've even been to Barcelona, Madrid. So done some of the Western Europe, and of course all over the United States. But Central America, as a kid, my mom used to send me to Guatemala. Spent a few times going there, and then living in Costa Rica, we've been able to branch out to Nicaragua and Panama, which I think you've spent some time in Panama. And I don't think you can count Canada. Didn't spend enough time in Canada.
You got to count Canada. Canada counts, Damon.
Canada counts, but I didn't spend enough time there to brag about it. I think I crossed the border in Minnesota just to say that I'd been there. And it's always been on the list, but it's cold in Canada. We don't go to cold places.
Okay, so someone that's traveled as much as you, Damon, knows a few travel hacking tips that you might want to share. So I'm going to run down some things and chime in if any of these things resonate with you. What would someone do that's crazy enough to live in Costa Rica as far as banking's concerned? Do you open a bank account there, or do you keep your bank account maybe in the States with a big local bank or a Charles Schwab and simply just use your debit card in Costa Rica?
Well, I can tell you what we've done. I mean, we actually do have our bank account with Charles Schwab still. and we opened up an account down here. What most expats will do, at least in Costa Rica, is set up a corporation, which is referred to as an association down here. And that becomes a Costa Rican entity that affords you all of the privileges that a Costa Rican would have, being that you're the controller of that entity, similar to corporations in, say, the United States. So our Costa Rican bank accounts are in our corporation's name, and then we get to call the shots on what happens with those accounts.
So then, Damon, talk to me. People are listening are going to want to know kind of a common question. How much would it cost for me to live in Tamarindo, Costa Rica? So kind of give us like a general budget per month, maybe not your own, and like maybe not something very, very cheap or very, very expensive, but kind of something, a dollar figure that someone would need per month to live in Costa Rica.
Sure. I'm comfortable talking about, what our expenses are. I mean, at this point with the blog and the book, my life's kind of an open book, as it were. It's tough to live here comfortably, I think, for anyone raised in North America or Western Europe for under $1,500 a month. That's sort of the bottom of the barrel. And we generally keep our expenses around $1,500 to $2,000 a month. But there are people who spend a lot more than that. And that kind of comes down to what you can and cannot live with or live without, as the case may be. And frequently it's food, it's air conditioning, it's the luxuries of life that, we've been comfortable to leave behind. We have air conditioning. We generally don't use it. We have food tastes that, from the States that we've left behind. We've switched our diet to mostly fruits and vegetables and, what we can find as far as good meat sources. But if you can't, if you come from a place where you're used to processed meals and frozen dinners and you like running your air conditioning all day long, you're going to be spending, $5,000, $6,000 a month easily. We have friends who do that every month. They putting the kids in a private school, running the air conditioning, having a nice big house with all the luxuries, a back home. Absolutely, you can start to run that bill up. It just kind of comes down to what you are willing to let go of.
So Damon, talk to me. You have me sold on Tamarindo. I want to try Costa Rican's best pizza. Break down, what do I need to pack to come down to see you? If I'm going to take a backpack or a small suitcase, what are the things that I really need to bring down to come spend some time with you?
Man, bring some sunscreen. Bring good sunscreen, waterproof sunscreen. It is so easy to spot the tourists in this town. They're the ones that are glowing red with tan lines or not. It hurts just to see it, but another good one would be some sort of a repellent. Both of these are hot items here. Repellent. In fact, anytime we have somebody come visit, we ask them to stop by Target or Walmart or some such place and bring us good couple of cases of bug spray and some sunscreen. Other than that, don't bring a whole lot. My philosophy when it comes to travel is bring as little as you can. I have this dream that I go on a trip where I have nothing but either a little cash, some cars, some means of spending money, and the clothes on my back. And when I arrive at my destination, the first thing I buy is a bag. When you have to be a nice bag. And then I just travel about picking up the things that I need and living the life of the people there so that I come home with a bag full of acquisitions from my travel. If you can do that, then you really experienced a place and come home with some awesome stories. The more you bring, the less you're going to interact, if that makes sense.
Damon, it sounds like you've been reading Rolf Potts' Vagabonding a little bit too much, and you have that guy dream of where you're just going to travel the world with a toothbrush and a hairbrush and some sunglasses, and you're going to live like a vagabond. No?
Well, the thing is all that stuff that you take with you, you worry about it the whole time. You've got on one hand, you want to bring your laptop because you want to be able to, whether it's write or stay connected to the internet. But then every time you turn your back, and the unfortunate reality of travel is you got to keep your head on a swivel. There's a chance your precious items could get taken from you, as it were. So I'd rather just not. I'd rather not worry about that stuff.
So Damon, talk to me. I know that you guys have at least one brick and mortar business with a pizza place in Tamarindo, and I know that you do quite a bit of writing. So what are some tips that you might offer on how you can run a business from anywhere that you have Wi-Fi?
Well, as far as running the business from the computer, I mean, at the end of the day, if you have a brick and mortar, you have to have people working for you. So you've got to set it up first, and I think that's where we really did it right when we came in. Is we got the pizza staffed properly, staffed with people that we knew we could trust, train them right. We worked next to them as long as we needed to until we felt comfortable with that, and so we can walk away, and for the most part, it runs itself. The food orders can be done by the people that work for us, and at some point we might want to check in and check out a few things, but by and large we can leave for long periods of time and run it via Skype or through the computer. As far as running other businesses, I mean, the reality for a lot of restaurant owners is that getting away from their business can prove challenging for their bottom line, because a lot of the people who go and will frequent those restaurants are locals, and they want to see that face in there when they go in there. Fortunately for us, our restaurant is not really a sit-down type of restaurant. It's what's called an express restaurant, which means it's predominantly for takeout or for delivery. And so there's not as much of that. They want to see us in there. They like to see Christina, but a lot of times they're ordering via computer or phone. And so that face-to-face interaction isn't as much of a piece of what we do. But absolutely, if it was a bar or one of the nicer restaurants in town, I see those owners in there sweating it out every day. From sun up to sundown, they're in there glad handing and making sure that people know who they are.
So they've basically changed their job in the States for a job/business in Costa Rica that they can't leave from.
Absolutely. Exactly what we were trying to avoid when we came down. We came down with the idea of opening a bar, and we wised up pretty fast to what that would cost financially, but also what it would cost in terms of our time. And the reality was that was not what we wanted to do. We didn't want to trade our lives of working all the time, rarely getting a chance to have free time in, say, where we were, which is Los Angeles, for now we're in paradise, but we're still stuck inside four walls all day long. That didn't make any sense to us. Initially, what kind of prompted this whole thing was we got married in Turks and Caicos, and after 2 weeks of being in the Caribbean, we just couldn't really see ourselves reassimilating into our lives without some sort of a plan. And we wanted to get back to that place. We wanted to be in the Caribbean, but that meant that unless we were going to, we needed to be seriously wealthy to do that, because the cost of living there is very high, or we needed to plan on getting some jobs that required us to roll up our sleeves and get to work. And that wasn't what we wanted to do. We didn't want to trade our lives of working all the time in one place for doing the same thing in another place, while the beautiful outside world that we wanted to experience was just passing us by, until we could retire or do, or die or whatever,
Damon, why don't we kind of deep dive now into Tamarindo? And first off, why in the heck are you guys in Costa Rica, number one? And then number two, why Tamarindo in Costa Rica versus some other places?
So Costa Rica, because we looked at all of our options. We looked, like I said, we looked at the Caribbean. We considered a couple of options several options in the Caribbean. We looked at Belize. We looked at Ecuador. At the end of the day, Costa Rica was our best shot at being in an environment where we had a lot of options. Costa Rica is an absolute menagerie of ecosystems, and so whether it's the Caribbean or the mountains of the city or one of its billion beaches, you have so many places you can live and experience. Find the right fit for you. It affords you to be sort of stupid about where you want to go. We knew we wanted to bang around, and then eventually figure out, okay, this is actually where we want to settle down. In other places, we didn't necessarily have that luxury. There was some big selling points to Costa Rica too. There's this country disbanded its army in the 40s, and just from a philosophical standpoint, I don't want to sound like a bleeding heart here, but I I'm not a big fan of war, and whether that's naivety or not, it's just the way I feel about things. And so a country that disbanded its army for whatever reason really matched our values. We saw when I would go to work in LA and go through the subway, I got very accustomed to seeing soldiers in fatigues and flak jacket carrying automatic weapons, and it felt very much like when I traveled to Guatemala as a kid. The feeling of safety in the United States stopped feeling like a safe place. And so being someplace without an army was really inviting. But it's also a beautiful country. There's a lot of amazing things to see and experience here. And so I think on balance, just what it offered and what we could do here seemed like the best mix of opportunities for us. And so we settled on Costa Rica, and we didn't know necessarily where we wanted to be, but we did have a very close friend. Our friend Gustavo in Los Angeles is Costa Rican, and of course he'd been in our ears for years talking about moving to Costa Rica. And so, in light of that, we went and lived with his family, actually, in Heredia for a couple of months when we first moved here. It was Christina, myself, the dog that we brought with us, and 6 other adults in a home in the city, with one bathroom. And when we got tired of that, we started kicking around where we wanted to go. We spent some time in the mountains above the city. We spent a couple of months living on the beach just west of the city. And when we got tired of those places and figured out they weren't exactly the right thing we were looking for, we started looking for business opportunities. And like I said, there was a lot that was for sale in Tamarindo. And so we planned a trip to Tamarindo, shopped several of those businesses, and then ultimately, boom, we found the pizzeria and made that purchase, which is a wild oversimplification of the actual purchase of the pizzeria, but I'll just describe it as boom, we bought it, and there you go.
Damon, this sounds so easy. Everyone can do it.
Yeah, and I don't mean to play it like that. It's not. I think the reality is a lot of people fail at this. A lot of people come here with the hopes that they can escape maybe themselves. I don't know. It seems like a lot of people that I meet are sort of on the run from themselves. And I think what they find is they get here and there they are in the mirror. All the problems that they've created in their lives just simply follow them. We left LA. We were happy in LA. We loved Los Angeles. And for a lot of reasons, we loved our lives, but we wanted to try something different. And so I think that's a big part of why we've managed to break through like the 6-month barrier. I think 8 months is the sort of the breaking point where most people who try to take on this life after about 8 months end up going back.
So Damon, besides your pizza company, why don't we talk about some of your favorite places or restaurants or activities to do while you guys live in Tamarindo?
Oh man, there is so much around here. One of the main selling points of Tamarindo is there's so much that you can do, and the mixture of people it's a very culturally diverse area. But for starters, let me go through some restaurants. There's Kahiki restaurant in town. There's Green Papaya. The restaurant choices in town is really diverse. If you want Japanese or Chinese, Italian, Argentinian, you can probably find what you're looking for in Tamarindo. In fact, my mother came and stayed for a couple of months, and her comment on it was that it seems like the market for restaurants is almost oversaturated, where it almost seems like there's more options than what the market should be able to handle, and yet it is. Outside of Tamarindo, actually, let me stay in Tamarindo real quick. Inside Tamarindo, you have your entire gamut of ecotourism. Surfing is huge. I mean, this is predominantly a surf town. It's a mecca for surfers who want to go surf where Robert August surfs. In fact, Robert August lives here. Robert August is the guy who helped create Endless Summer and Endless Summer 2. Endless Summer 2, part of it was filmed in Costa Rica. And so it's a hot spot for that. And then up and down the coast, there's places to surf. Now, we don't surf. We've tried, and last time I did it, I filleted my foot. So at this point, I'm staying away from surfboards. But you can stand a paddleboard, you can kayak, you name it, any kind of ocean activity that you want to take advantage of, you've got here. You can have snorkeling and scuba diving. There's horseback riding, ATV, zip lining. That's just like the activities you can do. And then if you get bored, you look up in the tree, and the tree above you is full of howler monkeys or parrots, some such wild, animal. That's all just in Tamarindo. Once you go outside Tamarindo, here's a really fun one, zip lining. I know zip lining is sort of trite. It's everywhere you go travel, they've got their version of a zip line. But man, there is nothing like zip lining past a volcano. You have enough time to kind of get the woo factor where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going really fast. And then you look out to your left and there's this massive volcano looking back at you, and you kind of forget for a second that you're zip lining. And then, oh my gosh, here comes the platform. And I've been at this for like 45 seconds now on this zip line. And then you do it again across the canopy. It's an awesome thing to do. And I think realistically, I think we barely scratched the surface on all the things you can do because we've been so busy now with the pizzeria and our responsibilities here in town. But the beauty is there's so much out there left for Christina and I to discover. It's exciting.
And then, Damon, why don't we talk more about some everyday items? And the first one is, what do you guys do as far as a visa? And when I say visa, I don't mean like lawyer speak, like, oh, I go get a lawyer and we wait for years and years and years to get a visa. Like, what do you really do as far as a visa is concerned to live in Costa Rica?
We leave every 90 days. We've been to Bocas. We've been to the other side of Panama. Most of where we've been is San Juan del Sur in Nicaragua.
Oh yeah, of course.
We actually applied for residency when we first came, and we've been in what's called in tramite, which means in consideration. And it's been like 15 months now. We just checked this morning. We're still waiting for a signature. So it's, while we wait for that residency to go through every 90 days. Now, we don't have to. Technically, we don't have to leave because we're in process. But we do because our driver's licenses become invalidated when our visa expires. And that's at 90 days. So we have to go do that. In fact, we're due here coming up pretty quick.
And I bring that up and laugh because I've been living overseas for a long time now. And the fact of the matter is, once you try doing a visa route legally, quote unquote legally, once or twice in different countries, you spend a lot of money and you waste a lot of time, and you say, forget that. I'm just going to do border runs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the law is, and honestly, I say I think because it's not really enforced. It's on a case-by-case basis. But I think the law is you can do one renewal, and then that's supposed to be it. But we meet people who've been doing this for a decade. And the worst thing that'll happen is you'll get a little sweated at the border. They'll want a little money to get you past. And whether it's on the Nicaraguan side or the Panama side or Costa Rican side, you grease a few wheels, and there you go. You got your 90 days again, and you go about your business. And that's just the reality of things. This is a developing country, and things are managed on a case-by-case basis.
So talk to me about something else practical. How did you guys find the place that you live in now, and what type of place is it? So
we rent an upper of what it is 2 units on this property. And the upper floor is like a studio-style, open-style kind of loft setup with vaulted ceilings. And then there's 2 smaller units below us, which get rented out on like a week-to-week or sometimes day-to-day basis. Our landlord lives in the upstairs of the other unit on the property, and that also has 2 smaller units below it. We found this just like you would find a rental place in the United States, which is on Craigslist.
People make fun of Craigslist still, but I think Craigslist is one of the best ways to find something to live in overseas.
Oh, absolutely. Anything we need, we first start with Craigslist. There's things that are kind of quirky items. I've been looking for field hockey balls lately. And first thing I do is I go to Craigslist and see if anybody's trying to unload some field hockey balls before I call somebody at home and say, all right, go to the sports chalet and pick those up for me and bring them with you when you come. It's great. It's a great resource. I love it.
So talk to me. It sounds like you are not a real estate professional. And what is your on-the-ground take of what the real estate scene is like in Tamarindo now. Do you think that there are a lot of deals? Do you think the market's oversaturated? Do you hear people talking about that they're losing quite a bit of money? What's your take on the market right now?
It's impossible to live in Tamarindo without some sort of take, because you get exposed to it. I think let me do this. You're right. We don't own, and we're not really real estate people, as it were. Our last piece of real estate was a condo that we short sold in LA to leave there, and like most people at that time, it was 2006 when we purchased. We had no idea what we were doing and got in over our heads, and are happy to have gotten out without losing absolutely everything. Down here, we haven't even considered getting involved, but what I understand from my friends that work in real estate that talk about it is it's not saturated. There's a ton of opportunity. There's a lot of people that are still trying to figure out what the heck to do with this property that they own, whether it's because they're up there in years and they don't want to live down here, but they're sitting on this piece of either land or a home, or whether it's that there was a divorce or some sort of situation where they're holding this property and they want to get out of it. There's a ton that's for sale. The hard thing about this market is there's no MLS. I mean, there is something called an MLS that I think they have a site and whatnot, but there's no standard for what a piece of property is worth. It's really what I feel I want for my house. And it's a strange situation where even, whether it's expats or the Costa Ricans, when people have a value set for their property and what they want to get for it, it's almost not up for negotiation. I mean, unless they get really desperate, it's like, no, they'd rather not sell for a long period of time than sell it at, what its actual going rate is, which is what I'm willing to pay you for it. So it's kind of all over the map. It's hard to capture the market and say, oh, well, you can get in at this. You can get in, at low rates. I mean, you could probably scoop up a condo here for $50,000 to $70,000, and then you could spend upwards of $1 million depending on how high up the hill and how big you want your property to be. That's about as much as I know about real estate.
Well, I'll be honest, Damon. I've spoken to, I think, 80 real estate professionals in about 2 months, and I think that's the best take I've gotten so far on a local real estate market.
Well, it's straight truth, man. It's just what I know. Thanks. It's great.
What I like about real estate markets outside, let's say, the States or Canada or the UK or Australia or New Zealand, is in these markets, I say they're a little bit more socialized, because your house is not worth what you can sell it for. Your house is worth what the appraiser says it's worth based on 3 or 4 or 5 other comparables. In a place like Costa Rica or Panama or a lot of other markets, your house is worth what you can sell it for. So on the flip side, if you're there and you work your butt off and you do it full time and you look for places to buy, you can find really great deals. And on the flip side, if you are there and you have a house and you know how to market and you know how to advertise, then you can sell your house for what you can get it for. So I like those markets because I believe that they're more true and they're more accurate. Damon, what do you have to say about that?
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think if you're smart, if you're experienced with real estate, then you can absolutely do fair business down here. I think the challenge comes for the buyer, such as myself. When I tried to get into the real estate market, is I didn't know enough about what I was doing, and so somebody who comes down to Costa Rica and just starts stomping around looking for a piece of property, they could very quickly get themselves into a situation where, without the right resources, they're in a piece of property that is not zoned correctly. I know a guy who bought a piece of property that after he dropped $300,000 into just the land alone, come to find out it was zoned incorrectly and that his money's gone, and that deal was a bad deal and there was nothing he could do to get it back. But for other people who do know what they're doing and spend a little time getting to know the market, absolutely there's a chance to make a ton of money down here. And maybe someday when I grow up, I'll get to join that group of people. But right now, it's all pizza.
You need to sell a lot of pizzas, get that cash, and buy some land and flip it to other people, Damon.
I like that idea. We do want to do that. I mean, we've talked about that. We have a couple of plans out there. My mother has a piece of property in Turks and Caicos that we would love to build on. But we've also talked about, when the time is right, getting some land here. Land can be had cheaply in Costa Rica. You got to get outside Tamarindo, but you can absolutely buy land for a good cost here. But again, it's one of those things where you want to be working with people. And I think this is kind of maybe not really groundbreaking advice, but you really want to work with people that you can trust down here, because unfortunately, like real estate, like business, there are unscrupulous individuals that just want to take your money,
So, Damon, unfortunately, I think we're at about that time. Share with us easy ways to get a hold of you or visit your awesome pizza place in Tamarindo.
All right. So, you can find me on Facebook. I probably spend way too much time on there, and that's just /Damon Ray. My name is DAMONRE, and Twitter is also the same extension, Damon Ray. So, twitter.com, Damon Ray. If you want, you can check out our websites for the pizzeria. The pizzeria is Pizza Co Express. So PIZZACOEXPRESS.com. Or my website for my writing projects, which is fairly new, is my name, DamonRayMitchell.com, DamonRayMitchell.com. And then if you want to check out my blog, I've got a blog right now at MitchellMobius.com. It's my last name, MOBIUS.com.
Love it, Damon. Is there any final pointers or tips that you might want to share with anybody listening?
Yeah, I think I talked about this one, but this is a really big point as I've been down here, and that's really, know yourself and know your motivations. If you're really wanting to make a move, then really take a good, hard look at who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. I think to some extent, anytime you're running towards something, the reality is you're also running away from something else. And what you want to know is, to what extent is it one or the other? Is it completely, I'm really just trying to run away, in which case I would say maybe reconsider why you're doing what you're trying to do. But if you're really at least at the middle of it, where it's, I'm running away, but I'm also running to something new and some new opportunity, then by all means, chase your dreams, because who knows what'll happen. You can fail anywhere. You can fail in your hometown. So why not go out there in the big world and see what happens? You can always tuck your tail and go home if you have to.
Love it, Damon. We are leaving very, very deep here, and promise me that you're going to come back on, and next time at least let Christina say one word. Would you please?
You got it, Taylor.
I want to thank Damon once again for giving us his take on what overseas living is like in Tamarindo, Costa Rica, and look forward to following his journey as he lives Pura Vida in Costa Rica. You can head on over to our site for complete show notes, easy ways to follow Damon, and more information about getting his upcoming book and visiting his and Christina's pizza place. And don't forget, if you are on the road as much as Damon is, you need an amazing way to keep track of your files and receipts and eliminate paper clutter completely. Head on over to irelpodcast.com/shoe and open your free account right now and see all the benefits Shoebox has to offer. That's irelpodcast.com/shoe to get started.
You have been listening to the IREL Podcast with Taylor White. Be sure to hit up irelpodcast.com for more. That's irelpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.